I tend to lead on the optimistic side. Not to be Pollyanna, but I do believe that there really is hope between us. That
Yep.
we're going to create what we need to create to withstand headwinds that we might be facing.
Hi there. Thanks for joining us. I'm Joanna Arisman,
And I'm Leah Alter.
and this is WomenShare, a celebration of women in financial services. Today, we'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Extella, the home for financial professionals who believe that people make the greatest difference.
So if you're looking for a network of firms that elevates every experience for their professionals and clients, check out Extella today at go.extella.com/womenshare. That's go.axtella.com/womenshare.
Well, today's guest is Dr. Lisa Toppin, a powerhouse in the HR and diversity space, leading people and culture strategies. She's currently driving workforce and market expansion at Carson Group, helping the firm reach a broader and more diverse group of advisors, investors, and talent. Before Carson, Lisa held leadership roles at Illumina, Charles Schwab, and LPL Financial. She even had a brief stint as a producing advisor, which gives her such a unique view into wealth management. Outside of corporate roles, Lisa's built a successful consulting practice as a trainer, speaker, and fractional chief people officer. She also holds degrees from Howard, Rutgers, and a doctorate in education from George Washington University. So, with all of that rich insight into leadership, diversity in the evolving workforce, we're just so thrilled to have you here. Lisa, welcome to WomenShare.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be with you.
Well, Lisa, we are just so excited to dig in with you. Your experience is just really inspiring and exciting. And we here at WomenShare have been following the work that Carson has been doing in regards to the research for women in wealth management. So for someone sort of unfamiliar with the work, could you give us a little bit of kind of insight into the research and why this is so important for the Carson Group?
Yes, thank you. So I'm really, really excited to talk about it because joining not so long, I haven't been with the company for a year yet, but Carson has already been on this trajectory to do research specifically around women and their experience as financial advisors. And I think the intention, as we'll acknowledge, is that so often women are understudied in whatever field it is, right? Whether it's in health or whatever it is. And so Carson says, listen, we really want to understand the experience of women so that we are in great position to support women. So I've been excited to jump in and take on this year's research. And this year we've really been working to understand what is the roadmap or the pathway for women advisors who are finding great success. And so really excited about what the research is revealing. We're going to be launching this in Q2, so I'm not quite ready to talk about sort of all of the insights as we're continuing to close that out and prepare the report. But it does sort of, I think, gives us real insight into how women see themselves in this industry, the agency that they take in terms of their careers and their practices, and really what they're doing very specifically to drive the kind of outcomes that they're trying to create. So I think it's going to be interesting and compelling. At least I hope so. And I do hope it sort of adds to the understanding of what one can do to be successful.
Well, and being able to build on the study that you did the year before, right? Just the additional findings. I mean, Joanna and I refer back to that study all the time. I mean, almost every episode, there's something that pops up with one of our guests that reminds us of the last one. So we're really excited to see what comes about of this one as well. And Joanna, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no, no. But well, what's exciting about the focus for this year, it sounds like, is like, okay, we know the trends aren't great, and I would imagine the themes can be similar to year in terms of the barriers. But I love the lens of, so what are women doing about it? What's the path, right? It's more of the
Yeah.
y- how do we move forward?
How do we move forward? That's exactly right. And so, the understanding, of course, the mentorship and the discussion about sponsorship, and really even how women are interacting with each other, and the queen bee syndrome, and all of those things, really important to understand. But
Yes.
then we want to turn the page and say, and then what else? Right.
Yeah.
And in this instance, what is working? And how do we lay that out so that we can, so that as many as want to can jump on that train, and we can help each other move forward for sure.
Oh,
I mean, that's so great. I mean, that's a lot of the reason why we started this podcast, right? Which is
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if we can help other people avoid some of the things that we had to learn the hard way,
Yeah.
why wouldn't we want to give that to other women, right? So it sounds like this is like, let's look at people who are doing really well and give other people a blueprint for that as well.
That's exactly right. That's
That's
exactly right.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, we're excited, and we'll make sure to amplify when the report is out. We are interested to dive in and share. Okay, so curious, knowing that you have deep experience inside the industry, but also outside of financial services. Are there any trends that are unique to the wealth management space for women that you've observed, or are things kind of similar industry to industry?
I would say they're more similar than they are different. Because the conversation around mentorship and sponsorship, absolutely a common conversation that's happening. And I think also the intention for women to look for ways in which they can lift other women, also a growing trend. So I've seen that in other spaces, and I think that is true. I think we're continuing to build momentum around those things. I always say, it's the things that go unspoken. If they're unspoken and they're not good, then they get to live in the silence. But
Mm,
when we talk about it, right? When we bring it forward, then it gets air, right?
yeah,
And if it's not good, then maybe the air will help its demise, and we will get to what's good, and figure out really how to heal that. So I really feel like women are doing more and more of that. We are coming forward and we're talking with each other. Just exactly what you all are doing with this podcast. I mean, just
Yeah.
helping women share. And I think women are looking for that. So I think that is the trend.
That's a great trend.
yeah.
Right.
And,
Right.
very validating, like you said.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question. Being that you spent time in other industries, what is it about financial services that, like, really attracted you and kinda keeps you in the space?
Mhm. Well, I really love the idea of creating, I'm gonna say, taking down the barrier that keeps people from getting to what we all need, and that's financial health and well-being. And it's sort of, I've just having been in the industry for some time, there's always this, I'm gonna say, this subtle drumbeat that women are hesitant to talk about it. They are not as confident entering into financial conversations. We've talked about the fact that we don't use language that's easy. So we're using, we're calling something a 529 plan. Well, that's the tax code. It's not really, is that's not helpful. Call it a stated plan. Just call it what it is.
Yeah.
But that makes it makes it much more difficult to enter, because you think that everybody knows what that is and you don't, when in
Yeah.
fact it's just not helpful. It's just not accurate language. I mean, it's accurate, but it's not helpful language. So there are
Mm,
ways in which it's defined that make it difficult for us to penetrate. And I don't think that's limited to women. I think that any group that hasn't had a lot of exposure finds that more difficult to hurdle. But this is the place where it touches every single life,
yeah.
where we need to make it so that it is accessible, and that people can do well with it. So that's the piece that continues to drive me and pull me back.
Oh, I love that. Well,
Yes.
and, the research that's come out on kind of comparing decision making, like investment decision making between men and women, like women outperform men on a lot of occasions. So it's like making it more accessible it's sort of sky's the limit of, if you can marry the accessibility with the maybe even the natural inclination,
Right.
who knows what's possible?
That's right. That's right. And I think it really is just sort of, again, giving the confidence and the courage and really creating the safety so that you can just enter. Like, come on in, the water's warm, you're gonna be okay. You know what I mean? We're gonna explore this thing. So I think that's right.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to come right back to you, but for a moment, we're going to just say we are so proud to be partnering with Extella, where exceptional service is the standard.
Yes, Extella elevates and empowers financial professionals to build a stellar practice and leave a lasting impact for their clients. Explore how Extella goes above and beyond for their professionals by visiting go.extella.com/womenshare. That's go.axtella.com/womenshare.
Okay, Lisa, back to you. So your role at Carson seems to be a really cool, unique blend of functions that might typically be split between like a human resources, practice management, marketing. So if we could go a little deeper on your role and how that's really shaping Carson today and in the future.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about this role because this is probably the first time that I've really sat outside of the human resources function, and so it is bringing about all kinds of learning for me that is new and different and just sort of feels kind of fresh. But in many respects, some of the pieces of what I'm doing are traditional in the fact that we are trying to figure out how can we create the environment that invites people who have not necessarily had access or been a part of Carson, or who have leveraged Carson. How do we make this a place that they would like to come and partner and work with us? And so it's some using some of the principles that I've worked with and learned from human resources over the years, but now sitting in marketing and really helping that team think about how do we do this well. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great group, and again, it sort of is bringing new principles to my practice, leveraging my old principles, and we're sort of going at it.
I love that. Well, and it seems so responsive and strategically smart, right? Given both there's the changing like population of clients that we serve, and then also the advisor shortage, like this talent shortage, right? So how it's just like to be out and working in front of that or, trying to make sure you're positioned really smartly to navigate those challenges that are facing every firm in this industry. That has to be really challenging and interesting work, like you said.
Yeah. Well,
What an
we need to
opportunity.
do it. It's a great opportunity and what a necessity. I mean,
Yes.
you as you mentioned, the population of the US is evolving, money is moving, and so we've got to be positioned to meet the people who are going to not only hold those purse strings, but as the population again continues to evolve, we want to be able to meet them where they are, not just in name, but in experience and understanding in terms of their
Mhm.
culture, in terms of the way in which they might think of things, so that you're in position to really provide the right advice and you're positioned to attract them. So I think
Mm.
it's sort of all of those things together. Like how do we create that kind of welcoming environment? And sometimes it's just saying, listen, we need to reflect back to the community who the community is. And
Yeah.
so there's clear and direct effort around that, and that is, I'm going to say, going to the traditional principles that I've practiced for many years. But then there's the idea of who is the client, who are the advisors, who will the advisors be, and how do we create the platform to attract that group and
Mhm.
support them, that this Gen 2 that's coming, and all of the places in which there are um places that we have not yet penetrated but would like to. And so we're sort of looking at that. We're excited. We've got an advisor coming who is known for her rainbow network, Laura Latourette. And so, excited to have her join and sort of help us build up that platform for LGBTQ advisors as an example. And so I mean that's where we're going and that's what we're working on. And so it is interesting. and fun.
Well, I feel like too that it's so smart because as we know, especially younger generations, you mentioned G2 as far as advisors go, but also the investors, right? Younger investors are really looking for the perfect fit for them, right? And they want to see themselves reflected in their advisor.
Yep.
Even if they themselves don't have a deep understanding of financial things like we were discussing,
Yeah.
being able to relate to somebody who just like you said, understands their lived experience,
Yeah.
that is taking financial advice to a whole different level. And being able to trust somebody more than just like, here's my money, like
Mm.
I hope it stays invested well. But
Yeah.
it's like you're a key part of my life now because you understand the day in and day out lived experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you just said it so well. Trust is the currency. And
Yeah.
so if I am gonna turn over my life savings to you, I have to trust you, and you have to get, as an example, that if I'm an African American family, that college is a really important thing for my family, and I'm interested in it may be that we're first generation, and so that's a very big part of how I'm thinking about it. Now, you might advise that I focus more on saving for my retirement than saving for college, but you need to come to the table at least appreciating why I've had the lens that I've had. So
Yeah.
that you could right? Because if you come in sort of with a judgment around that as that's wrong, then you lose me. Because
Yeah.
from my lived experience, it isn't wrong. Education is the pathway. And so but there are other factors that a person needs to or has to consider, and so how do you help me think about that, understand that need and the other needs as well? So it really is having that appreciation for wherever people are coming from, and how do we help the next generation of advisors understand what they need to understand so that they can do it well to meet those clients where they would like to. And then, just ultimately being a place that reflects that so that advisors and clients alike say, yeah, that's a place for me. And that's the work that we're doing.
It's so
Fantastic.
good.
Yeah.
Well, and I
Thank
mean,
you. Okay.
like Joanna and I are both career marketers. Meeting somebody where they're at is always the right marketing move. It
Mhm.
just is.
Right.
You're you you know, talking down to somebody or, shaming somebody for not understanding or not knowing something yet is never the right
Right.
move.
Right.
So, yeah, the accessibility and meeting them wherever they are kind of in the path or as they're learning is just yeah, it's really smart.
It's and it requires a new openness, right, to learn and to say, "Tell me about it. I don't I'm not as
Yeah.
familiar with your experience, your lived experience, or your background, and I'd like to know. So, help me understand." I think if you show up with that, that's often enough to build that trust to be able to get where you're going. So there are lots of ways in which you can build it, but it does sort of start with that understanding that trust is the currency, and then it's really the authenticity that's gonna be the pathway to get to it.
Mm. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Uh, okay, next topic, though. Well, related though, right? So you built an incredible career in this industry, and as both a woman and a Black woman in financial services, like how have those identities shaped your experience, and what positive changes have you seen over the years? And we'd love to hear, like, where is there still work for all of us to do?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I'm always happy to sort of have a conversation and share about it because I think that how would others know if you don't? Right? So as a black woman, as a Gen Xer, I have probably had all of the experiences that you would imagine in your mind that I've had. I've gone to rooms and not felt so welcome. I've had all those kinds of experiences for sure. Um, And I've also been very fortunate at to work at companies where I did feel supported and welcomed, and I did have mentors and sponsors that really saw me and lifted me and celebrated me. And not, it's never 100%. And sometimes you just run into difficult people and they don't like you, not because of the body that you inhabit, because they just don't like you. And so that
Right, right, right.
you know, that happens, that's true, that's fair, and maybe that's a them issue, maybe it's a your issue, who knows, but that happens. But what I would say is, what I have seen and how it has evolved, I was very aware in my early career of being very often the only one or the one of a few. If I saw a senior executive that happened to be African American, it would be like, "Ooh, look there."
Yeah, yeah.
And so now it doesn't have that same feeling because we have made a lot of progress. People have that the talent has evolved. Companies have evolved in terms of who and how they're elevating and how they're doing it. So you're not alone. And so that piece has changed. And in some instances, I'm now the executive that they go, ooh. And so
Yeah, yeah.
and I remember that, and I try to make sure that I avail myself to the needs of that person because I remember what that was like. And so I think it has changed into the I'm gonna say the environment has changed because there are so many more successful professionals of varying backgrounds that make it up. And so it just depends on, are you in consumer products? And maybe that looks a little different than financial services. And,
Right.
but it for sure has evolved. And I think that's the good part.
Good.
Yeah.
We had we had someone on who was telling us about the CFP board that was doing a program of you have to see it to be it. And that just really reminded me of that. It's, for all of us, seeing other women in decision making roles that are really affecting change within an organization, different cultural backgrounds, things like that, that it
Yeah.
really is so important. And it's fun that, yeah, you went from seeing them and, now you are them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one
It's
being seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's true, and I guess early on, you're not imagining that that's exactly what will happen, but it is, and I think, for women broadly, I think that's the piece that we see happening, right? So many women are reaching back and pulling others as they climb, and that is for sure a, um, a trend that I am seeing and appreciating and living, right? That we are looking to help each other. I saw something just the other day on LinkedIn where a former colleague, just tagged several women and just said, you all are great. And the warmth that you felt just from that tag and the acknowledgement and the inclusion of that was just it was just like a shot in the arm, and,
Yeah.
that we would not have had 15 years ago. So it is definitely it's happening, it's evolving, and I would say and so is my experience and my expectation. My expectation to
Mm.
I'm showing up with the expectation to be included, and I'm showing up with the expectation to do the work to make sure others are included. Like that's different than how it had been. So now that might be speaking to how long I've been working. I don't know. And that's I don't want to touch that, ladies. I just want to,
I mean, I'm a Gen Xer too.
we gotta tell the truth. We gotta tell the truth. But yes, so we've seen some things. We've seen some things.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, honestly, this conversation is sort of a shot in the arm. You're making me feel really hopeful, and that is not something we feel a lot of these days. So,
Yeah.
your optimism is infectious. So, thank you for that too.
I appreciate that. I tend to lead on the optimistic side, not to be Pollyanna, but I do believe that there really is hope between us. That
Yep.
that we're going to create what we need to create to withstand headwinds that we might be facing. And so, with the And I always anchor back to, look, our ancestors have endured worse. So, right? So you gotta,
Yeah.
this let's get strong. Let's sit up in our seats. You know what I mean? Like we can do this.
I
But
love that.
that's been one of the biggest gifts of even this show is, I think when we started out, it was a little bit like, okay, we're gonna start doing this thing. It feels we're like on an island a little bit, but it has become so apparent as we're having all these guests on, and uh, just the community that is coming together. It's like, oh, there's so much great work being done
Yeah.
to help all of us, and it's like this community and helping each other is the superpower, of driving this change. So, anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
I share your optimism. It's not every day, to be
No.
clear, but yeah, in general, right? Like, there's
Yeah.
a lot of people linking arms to make things happen.
That's it, and I think that you're leading a conversation like this on a regular basis gives us a regular shot in the arm, gives us a regular, um, piece to anchor into so that we can continue the momentum because like you said, every day is not a good day. Well, philosophically, we could say that every day is a good day if you see the day, because if you're not seeing the day, then that has other implications. And you're not,
Right.
you're ordering flowers, and there's a whole thing going on over there that we don't want to be a part of. So every day is a good day, but we know we're not feeling great every day. And so
Yeah.
having this kind of discussion with all of the guests that you're hosting just means a lot, I think, to women broadly, just to keep us
Oh.
encouraged and to hear other experiences and the other ways in which people are thinking about things. It matters.
Are we an antidote to despair?
You
My goodness.
are.
Oh, I love that.
That's
I
good.
love
New
it.
tagline.
A new tag. Are we changing our tagline?
You
Okay.
would.
So, Lisa, we ask
Mm.
every guest who comes on the show, what is the best career advice that you've ever received?
Yeah, I saw, and so that is it's a really great question. It's a hard one, probably because I've been working a long time. Here's where I'm gonna go. Is the advice that I heard really from my on when I was on my very first job. And what the gentleman said was, you should be in position to update your resume every 6 months. So that meant be really intentional about what you're learning, about what you're contributing, and the outcomes that you're creating so that if you needed to, you could update your resume every 6 months. Now, time is moving faster. Maybe it's every quarter, but
Yeah.
just I think the takeaway is that intention, that it's not just, you're in a role and you're working and you're contributing, but your intention to learn and your intention to contribute, and that it should be something substantive that you can actually capture and that would be worthy of capturing on your resume.
Oh, that's great
Great
advice.
advice. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and just a paradigm shift, right? Like you said, I think people want to do well and work hard and everything, but there's a difference with that lens of what you'd prioritize, or,
I
how you'd maybe build your skills differently. So that's
Yeah.
good.
yeah.
Being intentional.
It's
Yes.
the intent, right? Because what happens, you get promoted and you go, "Woof, that was great."
Yeah.
And then right? And then you lose the focus and the intention of the next 6 months because 'cause you're just riding high on what just happened. And
Yeah.
what you were saying is don't ride high, get right back in it and with clear intention to continue to build.
Mm, that's so good. Um, Another question for you. So outside of what we've covered so far, and even outside of your professional life, what can we celebrate with you today?
Ooh, well, if you don't mind a little bit of a upcoming celebration,
Yes.
I would share that my son, who's a sophomore in college and majoring in musical theater, is going to be in a production of Love's Labor's Lost at Penn State University. So very excited for him. And that's I want to say that opens next weekend, maybe next week. Next week we're going to the closing weekend. So excited for him about that. And my daughter is graduating from high school in May. So we
Oh,
have it's all moving and we're celebrating, and I guess on the back end of that, then we're celebrating the empty nest. So we'll get these people going, we'll keep them going, and, me and hubby will hang out here and chill for a minute, I guess. So,
That's amazing.
yeah.
Sounds like
I
you've
would
been
love
launching them well. Yeah.
Yeah. I was a theater major in college.
You
Ended up in financial services, so, you never know.
you never know.
I was I was a double major. I did English lit and theater, but yeah, I was a complete and total theater, music theater. I mean, still am just a
Yeah,
huge fan. So
yeah, yeah.
that is so exciting. And
I'm
that's such
really
a great show. Y'all are gonna have so
Oh,
much.
really? Oh, I've never seen it. Okay. Oh, good. Okay. All right. I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward.
Awesome. Well, this has just been an amazing conversation. Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story, sharing your experiences. If people want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Oh, well, they can certainly find me on LinkedIn with Dr. Lisa Toppin through LinkedIn. And I've got a website, drlisatoppin.com. So they can certainly find some of the things that I'm doing there as well. So would love to hear from you.
Awesome.
Awesome.
We'll make sure we've got all of those links in the show notes so folks can find Lisa and follow her work. And once again, we want to thank our sponsor, Extella, a network of firms that elevates every experience for their financial professionals. Visit go.extella.com/womenshare. That's go.axtella.com/womenshare. And with that, that is our show for today. If ours is a mission that you want to share in, please subscribe to WomenShare on your favorite podcast platform. That I'm Joanna Erisman.
And I'm Leah Alter, and we will catch you on the next episode of Women Share.